Part 11. First things first, I had to set aside money for rent and food. Sister Chen charged $12 a night at the motel, so I budgeted another $10 a day for meals. That was my survival plan. I spent the next few days looking for work, but reality hit fast. I didn't know how to do anything useful. Even the construction crews didn't want me one look at my glasses, and they assumed I was too soft for manual labor. I tried restaurants too. They were tempting because they offered room and board, so you could save almost everything you earned. But my English was poor, my hands were slow, and I wasn't exactly efficient. Some places, like sushi bars or massage schools, even required you to pay tuition to become an apprentice. Out of options, I called Big Shwe again. He said I could come to Denver and work with him. The Greyhound bus ticket from Los Angeles to Denver cost over $200. I could still afford it, barely, but if I took a plane, I'd arrive with nothing left in my pocket. So I bought the bus ticket, and just like that, my first job in America began. The 24-hour Greyhound ride was nerve-wracking but exciting. Everything was new: changing buses, transferring luggage, refueling stops, even the restrooms inside and outside the stations. For me, all of it was fascinating. Of course, I later learned why most people avoided Greyhound. The onboard restroom was at the back of the bus, a stainless steel toilet in a tiny unisex cubicle that reeked every time someone opened the door. Most of the passengers were poor. Air travel in the US is cheap and easy, so people with money or legal status fly. Greyhound, on the other hand, doesn't check IDs. Many passengers are undocumented, or people with criminal records who can't fly. I didn't have a record, just no money. A last-minute flight from Los Angeles to Denver cost over $300, while regular fares were only around $100. I couldn't afford it. As the bus climbed higher into the mountains, we stopped at a gas station marked by a giant green dinosaur, the Sinclair logo. Snow blanketed the hills, and dark pine forests stretched endlessly. That was the first time I truly felt the cold, not just on my skin, but deep in my chest. It was the chill of uncertainty. I kept thinking about something my great-aunt used to say: money gives people courage, a home gives people backbone. I had neither. I was still the same timid, anxious person I'd always been. Looking out at the Sinclair station, I noticed the dinosaur statue again, a long-necked brontosaurus. It reminded me of a cartoon I used to watch on Jiangsu TV's Little Dragon Club. There was a dinosaur character named Denver, just like the city I was heading to. Somehow, it felt like fate. Like maybe my first job in this new world had been quietly waiting for me since childhood. Later, we switched buses in a small, run-down town. The transfer station was part of an old red brick gas station surrounded by 2- and 3-story buildings that looked frozen in time. The cold bit through my clothes as I waited outside, shivering. To save money, I'd only bought a cheap loaf of bread and a bottle of water along the way. That town reminded me of the old Shijiawang neighborhood back home before it was torn down around 1995. I remembered the narrow alleyways, the red-tiled public restroom that was once the newest building in the area. At the end of Gulu East Alley stood a tiny, crumbling house, maybe even made of packed earth instead of bricks. It had no light inside, but an elderly white-haired woman lived there, refined, soft-spoken, with bright, intelligent eyes. Even as a child, I felt she was more elegant than any schoolteacher I'd ever met. I used to love drawing, and my grandmother once took me there to show her my sketches. The old lady told me, the hardest thing to draw on a person is the hands. The hardest thing to draw on an animal is the dog. I never learned her name, and after the demolition, she vanished from my life. Only years later did I realize whoever she was, that woman wasn't ordinary. Maybe a true artist, or someone who'd seen the world far beyond that little alleyway.